Alrighty. How's it going, gamers? Looks like Semicolon wants a kitty break before we even get started. I'm not sure if it counts as a break at that point or just a kitty showcase, if you will, but let's go with that regardless. Kitty showcase time. Where's my freaking full cam there? Cool. BRB in a minute. She was sitting with my roommate, and she let out the longest when it looked like I was gonna pick her up and move her. How dare! And then, of course, as soon as I pick her up, she immediately starts purring again, because you know, she just wants attention. How dare! How dare! But no, she is omega purring again, as one does when one is a cat. Hi. Oh, sleepy baby. Hello, Helvetica. Semicolon says hello. You should say hello back or something. Well, she's purring. I assume you guys cannot hear, but she is purring. Yes. Must rub face on everything. Oh, you can actually? Nice. Good microphone. Most important feature of the new microphone. Hearing Helvetica purrs. Hi. There you go, looking at the camera. Good girl. Head scritches. We're at his sister-in-law's graduation. Got to show Helvetica to a bunch of cat people. Good. Good. She must be admired the whole world over. Not that she understands what that means, but if she did, I'm pretty sure she would approve. Yeah? Is that true? Or are you objecting to that claim? I know you're just objecting to me moving you slightly, but we can pretend. Must rub face on everything. Especially my skin, which she's normally not allowed to do because I am so allergic. Okay, it's aggressive head pats time. Is that what you're saying? Yes. Head smacks. She's looking away from the camera now, so you guys can't see, but her face is like blissed the fuck out when I do this. Look at that. Look at that freaking cat. She's leaning into it more. Cat, why do you like these head smacks so much? Need to knock every available brain cell loose. No brain cells can remain. It is illegal. Oh, not allowed to have glasses now? Okay, understood. What? What is it? What do you want? Just to rub your face on my mouth again? Because that sounds about right. Okay. Doing the hugs. Hug around the neck. She is a gooper baby. Noogie time. Noogie time. Happy cat noogies. Not going aggressive enough, I see, okay. Aggressive or noogies? Jesus, cat. I'm gonna like poke an eye out if I go much harder than that. Gooper. Okay. I think that is probably enough of a kitty break for today. I give you the Jelly Bean video as usual, and then we will jump right into silent stats.
Are you done?
Okay. Again. I'm gonna be coughing for a little while now, probably, because she was more aggressive with the cuddles than usual. Frick. But here we are. She is a good cat. And this was a good seed. Very kind, silent seed. The stick is funny. Yeah, a lot of winning decks on this one. What was I think the win rate was... Let me double check again before I misquote. I have the sheet somewhere. But, yeah, 69. Very nice win rate on this one. Also the most even set of Niao options I think we've had on a Seed of the Week seed ever so far. Normally there's like at least one Niao that never gets picked, but this time it was, yeah, all of them in contention. Transform to choose a card, boss swap, or triple potion. And yeah, small potions. That's how it's stored in the game code, which is interesting phrasing, like XXL big gulp potions. I mean, it like... Where my brain goes with that is maybe they were thinking like potion rarity or something was going to be different at one point in time, and like you only got, yeah, they had some kind of plans which didn't come to fruition. Maybe we'll see them inspire too, who knows. But yeah, 3 small potions. And yeah, Enums never change, always has a plan. Yeah. But yeah, not only were they all reasonably chosen, they were all also reasonably win rate. Like, there were a good number of wins on all 4 of these. It's not like one just got completely owned. Like how frickin' choose a rare on GLHF, it's like half or more of the people who pick choose a rare get knobbed. Like there's none of that on this one too. They were all actually solid options. And yeah, it was a nice set of transforms from what I remember. It was a nice set of 3 cards to choose from. And somewhat annoyingly, it did split things out pretty wildly in early Act 1, because all of these Niaos like affect rare card chance slightly differently. How's the Seed of the Week going? It's going pretty darn well, I would say. It's participation is really upticked. How many do we have this past week? 45. Almost 50 people logging runs on this past week, which is pretty damn cool to see, not gonna lie. I should probably be used to it by now, and in a way I am, but like, when I started this thing, legitimately, I was like, I don't know, maybe I can like convince 2 or 3 streamer friends to stream it. That'd be kind of cool if there was like, you know, a couple of us doing it, and then maybe talk about it as like a little club kind of deal. You know, maybe not every week, maybe it'll just be me playing them some weeks, but that's okay, you know, it's not the end of the world. And then it just like, everyone is like, I wanted something like this, and let's freaking go. All right, dude. I am thrilled. And this is again why the spreadsheet keeps growing, because I like stats, and when there are like more runs to work with, there are more kind of interesting like aggregate stats that you can actually start presenting, which has been super fun to dig into as well with stuff like this. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do this stream last week. This was not the most recent seed. This is the one before that. So I'm a little out of date in remembering the details of the run. So we're gonna go through that together, but still get out of it what we can, and then Defect recap after that. But yeah, very kind seed overall. If this didn't make it obvious, it's Dead Branch did Dead Branch things. Actually, I think the better way is to actually start with the winning runs tab, which is a little bit crazy because there's a lot of winning runs now again. When you have like almost 50 runs submitted and most of them win, there's a lot on here. So don't worry too much about the details of like, you know, the specific cards in the deck or what have you. You can kind of drill into that more specifically if you're interested. But the cards in the deck helped me sort of group them up into themes of like, how did this deck win? There are some that were very clear, like poison decks, of just like, if you have 2 Catalyst pluses in your deck, 2 Catalysts Act 1 makes Slime Boss sad. It's like, it goes a little nuts, especially when you have the stick to double down on all of that, and just like reasonably, I think, no, they weren't necessarily smaller decks on these ones, but yeah, that is a thing. And then on here, there's more people who had double Catalyst, but when I say Intange Monkey, I mean like monkey for intangible. I didn't put Cess Numerals Run in that category, even though they had 3 apparitions and duplicated a 4th, because the standard for monkeying in this seed for intangible is like ridiculous. Spreadsheet the Spire, you know it. Because yeah, we've got like, again, 4 apparitions here, bursting them. We have apparitions here with 2 bursts. We have, and then the rest of the intangible monkey categories, we have double Wraith Form, double Nightmare. We have triple Wraith Form and a Nightmare. We have, you know, Wraith Form, wait, why is this one in intangible monkey? Where's the, oh, double Nightmare Wraith Form. And that was the entire, how was leg sweep damage? Is leg sweep in damage? Oh. Because I put it in the wrong category, apparently. Thank you for that. I'm just gonna leave a note for myself on the side to fix that after stream, because apparently I did it across the board. Leg sweep is not damage. Okay, yeah. A lot of this was done manually. I did automate it. I can't remember if I automated it as of this week. I think I did, which means that I just fucked up the card sorting. Anyway, I'll figure it out later. For now, ignore the leg sweeps in here. Pretend that they are one category over. But yeah, Nightmare Wraith Forms. Double Nightmare and triple apps in here. 4 apps and a Nightmare for them. And like, it's just, it gets to be a lot. Nightmare Wraith Form as well. Only 1 copy here, but I remember, I think it was like from the description, it played a really key role in the deck. There were a lot of people doing intangible nonsense this seed, if you can't tell. Wasn't even offered apps. I don't think our run was either. And frankly, I'm not sure I would have taken them if it even was. I can't remember the state that... Oh no, I would have, because everyone was taking them because there was the early toxic egg in this run. So you get them and they're immediately upgraded, which makes them an incredibly tempting proposition. But yeah, the next bucket that I put them in, and this was wet in my run, fell in this one as well, is just branch shiv spam. You see the stick, you click on every shiv, basically, that you see. You probably take Wrist Blade from the second boss reward too, and you just have triple Blade Dance, triple Cloak and Dagger, double Blade Dance, you know, Cloak, and there was a Infinite Blades in here. There's, you know, double Blade Dance, double Cloak, just, you get the idea of lots of, like, most damage in the run coming from shivs and from the cards that Branch happens to make with those shivs. Like, 4 copies and 2 copies of, you know, people like shivs. And understandable. Also, shoutouts to Linosaurus, who I almost put in this category of Branch shiv spam until I noticed that they keyed the Branch early on. So, also worth noting on that front, that both of the 2 people who keyed the Branch in this run did win. So kudos to you both. Maybe we're all crazy and Branch just sucks. I don't know, but you know, stats don't lie. A couple runs here that I just put as wear damage, because that's sort of like what the comments were saying is like, I don't understand how this character deals damage going up to the 8x15. Same thing here. Act 4 was super spooky. Had to whittle the shield down with a single poison stab with 6 strength debuffs, and like carried by Thorn's pot kind of thing. And I think this also goes to show, like, it's not just the intangible monkey stuff again, even though it's like, Apps Burst in here, Apps Burst in here as well, but like, Apps Burst can smooth over a multitude of sins sometimes in deck building, and you can get pretty damn far with actually like very little damage, very little output in the deck. I actually had this, not with Silent, but with the previous Defect Seed of the Week. Not this week, the week before, where it was a similar issue, not with apps, but just with Frost Focus, where Wet and I got like crazy far with no damage in the deck because it's just, you have enough Frost Focus, you can just chill. Get it? You can just chill. You can just hang out and like wait for things to get whittled down until that stops working, and it stops working later than you would think. I kind of died laughing at one point, I remember, in the Act 2 boss fight, when it's like the best damage card that we can hologram right now is a 3-cost strike. 3-costed from Snecko. Because it wasn't even upgraded, it was just a 3-cost strike, but we had Strike Dummy and we had Necronomicon, and the fact that it cost 3 meant that Necronomicon would play it twice, and that was the best damage our deck could muster. We still almost won, because, things are silly, but again, it's a sort of like, where is damage coming from? If anybody who is like better at the Silent wants to take a closer look at these decks and maybe give more advice in Discord or something at some point, I would encourage. I personally, I don't feel like Silent is my best character in the world, and at a glance, I can't tell a hell of a lot from these other than like the basic, damn, that's a lot of acros kind of thing. But yeah, interesting runs that I thought worth highlighting based on the run submission comments. And then a bunch down here that are just sort of general shenanigans, branch, egg, often Snecko, and just doing nonsense and high rolling and having fun, but not really neatly falling into any of those categories. Still a lot of wins in that bucket, because the stick is silly. Once again, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, most people making it at least to the heart on this one. Some unfortunately falling a bit early. Boss relics. Where are the relics in this one? So yeah, Swappers, stick and dice. There we go. Swappers had a good time on this one. Not necessarily on floor 1. Where's the frickin'... Yeah. Floor 1, Swappers get kind of owned, because Snecko Eye, when you have only the Silent starter deck, is garbage. But picking up steam pretty quickly after that, it seems. When you have Snecko Eye from the beginning and you can build around it, like, Snecko Silent gets a bad rep, but there are fun things you can do with it. You can, like, use discounted sneaky strikes to farm extra energy. Bullet time really pops off. Like, there are some good combos. Yeah, floor 1 was the most damage I took in the entire run. I believe it. And you can see that kind of at a glance from this. If I zoom out, again, don't look at the details, but just look at how much freaking green there is going forward. It's like floor 1 sucks, and then everything is just being chilling. Not completely again, but yeah. Also, interestingly, everyone who picked Snecko Eye end of Act 1 had a good time with it as well. I forget who mentioned on Discord, it was like they assumed that the only Snecko pickers would be the people who swapped into it, but no, there were some people who identified at end of Act 1. This is a pretty good Snecko Silent deck, and hey, it worked out. Good job. This was a free cursed key, if I recall, because I think there was Omamori this run, unless I'm mixing it up with a different run, because again, it's been a while, but, you like free cursed keys? Tauken is umming me. Am I mixing things up? Very well, maybe. Or you're umming something else. Either way. Do clarify when you can. Torn probably should have taken the Snecko. Scrubby keyed Omamori. If only you knew Cursed Key was waiting. If only. Unfortunate. Yeah, what did people key? Let's just jump over to that. Getting Dreamcatcher early. Understandable. I'm generally someone who doesn't like to key things like super early in Act 1 if there's like any value I can get out of it. It's like value now better than value later, but understandable. Like Dreamcatcher, Warpaint, they're not the highest output relics. Omamori, there are odds that you get literally nothing out of it the entire run. And this is floor 26 as well. It's Act 2, not Act 1. Nobody keyed anything in Act 1 on this one. Already used Omamori, then got Cursed Key anyway, which made forget Blue Key. No! Unfortunate. Yeah. Tiny Chest, Warpaint. Understandable. Lots of Tiny Chest keyers, another late Dreamcatcher keyer. Oh, not that much later, 26 and 30. I guess there was like a bunch of treasure nodes in question mark rooms in Act 2 is what this means. Yeah. Keying Gremlin Horn on floor 39 is interesting. Byron, if you're lurking there, I would be very curious to hear your logic behind that one, because that is not a move that I would really consider making unless this was forced key. Seed was my white whale, tried 3 times and died to this stupid book each time. Ah, damn. Did you end up in the... Did you submit run history? Are you in here? Yes, you are. So yeah, if you have, like, specific parts of your run that you're like, I'm not sure if this was the right call or that was the right call, I'm happy to sort of zoom into your sort of choices or pathing or whatever, and we can kind of get chat's take on it at large. But not a lot of value left. Fact 3 is solved, just Spire Elites. I mean, there's always sort of the looming threat of Repto going through my head, unless you're like literally not pathing to any more elites. Bet you didn't play this week, watch Zeknar instead. Fair. Understandable. Right, let's look at pathing. Did you... Where did the pathing? Yeah. I feel like I'm missing something about this seed. Don't know what decisions specifically can look at. Well, let's just... let's take a look at... sort of overall, your initial was dagger throw, skip into dash, taking a donut, goop, prepared, rest, blade dance. Okay. Comparing that just... Actually, we have the here. So this is a new sheet that I made as of this week, to break down, like, because this is getting messy, right? When it's like, it looks like people are taking poison, stab, and flying knee and all out at roughly similar rates, but they're just not being offered them at the same time. Like, everybody who sees all out attack clicks all out attack. Almost everybody who sees the dagger throw clicks the dagger throw. That's just how it goes. I think this is a one worth noting, Cookie, of the early skip is greedy here, I would say. Silent, I find, really needs early front load. Like, her starter deck is just so freaking defensive, right? It's every other character has a starter card that is damage output, right? Like, Ironclad has Bash, Defect has Dual Cast, Watcher has Being the Watcher / Eruption, and Silent gets Neutralize and Survivor, right? They're not output. And so I find myself usually clicking like whatever kind of even mediocre early damage cards I see just to have enough to be able to snowball forward. Also sometimes gravitating towards like early shops again to look for damage cards or damage output potions, and letting that sort of snowball forward through Act 1. So Flying Knee and Poison Stab, they're not exciting hits, but they are damage, right? They are hits of sorts. And I would personally click either of these to overskip there. Looking at your next floors, that was pretty common. Donut, common enough. I don't know how much HP we're missing here, but personally I tend to go for the banana more often than not if I can get full value out of the heal. Again, for the same kind of logic is, donut is long-term value, but short-term value snowballs forward into long-term value. If you can take that HP and use it, like basically spend it on a more aggressive path and getting like the early elites and higher rare card chances and relics and stuff that you get from being able to more safely take those aggressive early paths, that I find can often snowball forward more strongly. And I was wondering when someone, if and when someone was going to call out the team not dork in the box as I'm espousing the virtues of banana here. But I do remember this decision. We actually debated it for a while. And it basically came down to we are getting a relic soon either way. Do we get the relic from this box and then path in one direction to a shop where we can remove the regret that we get from it, or do we path another way and fight an elite and get a relic that way? So it's like we're skipping an elite in order to take the box. So it was just looking at the rest of the path ahead, and it's like, how much do we, how scared are we of the elite? Like, could we get owned with the potions that we have? Is, the safer path, a little bit more helpful? Do we actively want the shop that we're going to? Did we have a decent amount of money burning a hole in our pocket? That kind of thing. But yeah, was an unpopular decision apparently, and I'm not surprised. It's normally not something that I look towards at all. I almost like on instinct clicked one of the other ones, and then we started talking about it, and it was like, wait, well, hold on, actually, is this a box? And it turned out to be, and I stand by it. I mean, it worked out for us. Note the little trophy. Yeah. Also, leaving gold behind. You can pry this gold out of my cold, dead hands. But again, this is like another example of banana, right? If you're taking, HP in the near kind of immediate term, that immediate term value you can convert into longer term value by, spending it on gold, spending it on elite fights, spending it on, this, that, and the other. And sort of, yeah, like Silence late, like long-term kind of late game tends to be, I find, better on average. It's just about like getting to the late game in general. So taking longer-term greedier picks from the beginning on her, I find just makes it difficult to get your feet under you and kind of get the run going to a point where it can really start to snowball. So that's my 2 cents at the very least, seeing, again, just the first 5 floors, because that's what I have this breakdown for. Beyond the first 5, it's like it starts to just fan out and get like way too different depending on pathing, that there's just not enough to reasonably group up anymore. But yeah, those are some early thoughts. If anyone in chat has like other thoughts to throw at there, please do, or if there are other parts of the run you want to zoom in on. But yeah, while we're here, and also say, like, I think it was Boot in Discord who was a little concerned about the format and why everything's kind of all over the place. It's because horizontally, these are the same card rewards. Because sometimes you can see the same card reward on different floors. And this is actually, I think, easier to see. I'm not going to, like, fully jump ahead to the next seed, but just to showcase, because it's a little bit easier to see here. For people who did the boss swap on this seed, it was a what's it called? A calling bell swap. And calling bell, because there's a reward screen that it gives you to click on the 3 relics. The fact that a reward screen is presented means that a card reward is secretly generated in the background and then discarded. That's just part of how the Slay the Spire code works for whatever reason. So this card reward was generated and then thrown away for everyone who boss swapped. So people who didn't boss swap see this on floor 1. People who did boss swap see basically the second card reward on floor 1. And then, the people who didn't boss swap see this one now on floor 2. So whenever somebody sees this card reward, it's like most people are clicking Cold Snap. Some people are clicking Rebound, but some people just see it a little bit later than others do. And so it's kind of funny just how like different, Niao options or pathing or what have you can affect exactly when you see certain card rewards, but sometimes they do end up being relatively consistent. And it does fray out more later because the order that you take in elites changes things because of rare card chance and some other garbage. But early on, you can actually kind of line it up reasonably well. So anyway, all that is to say, Dagger Throw, floor 1. Good. One of 2 boss swappers who died. Rip. Unfortunate. On this seed, the silent one, or the defect seed. Either way, yeah. Defect. Fair. Yeah. I think Chaos was the other one, I believe, and they made it like to the heart and just, I think it was even like a misclick or something, something on that level, just like a a brain fart in the heart fight that that made things go sideways, which was unfortunate, but happens to the best of us. But yeah, Dagger Throw, floor 1, a good card, opens up a lot of early damage options, opens up Sneaky Strikes, a little bit Eviscerate, a little bit, Tactician Reflex, and people greeting the Tactician from the beginning, which, if you can carry it, you can carry it. All Out Attack, again, good AoE damage to Slime Boss Act. These two are kind of bad. Flying Knee and Poison Stab, choose your warrior of mediocre front load. Took it because I took the 3 cards from Niao. Yeah, understandable. That makes sense. I guess this was the choose a card. The thing that choose a card people see for one. I don't know. I didn't think 25 people went for choose a card on this seed, but I can't remember. It might be like 2 different Niaos get folded together into whatever. Shit's confusing. I'm not gonna pretend to understand. But yeah, this reward being the choose your mediocre damage common of choice. Misty Swirl. That's a name I haven't seen in a little while. Hope you're doing well, friend. I am nerding out about a game called Slay the Spire and a Seed of the Week challenge that I've been running for a little while. But yeah, good to see you. Good to see you around. Also, if you have your own emotes, I assume that means you stream as well. So I will have to check you out at some point too. Where's the freaking button? Okay, cool. Apparently I'm already following you. But yeah. What was I saying here? Tactician, more people taking it on floor 2. Again, understandable. Maybe you took, Dagger Throw or something else into this. Yeah, Baylor going Dagger Throw into Tactician. Making sense. Dash, nice early damage. Its block. It does things. About to finish PC build. Hell yeah. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Bouncing Flask, its damage. Do you follow me? Well, if you start streaming at some point, I absolutely frickin' will. And yes, that is my IRL dad, who I also got into this frickin' game, and who hangs out on Twitch sometimes. Good to see you. My dad? No, my dad. Different things. What was I talking about? Card rewards. Dash is good. I don't know how much more there is to say. Oh, it's the Vine. I missed that one. What else is going in here? A lot of people taking the box on this seed. 3 cards saw Dagger Throw, Dagger Spray, Bouncing. Interesting, it didn't change the floor 1 options. Well, it probably did for those... Sorry. Dagger Throw, Dagger Spray, and Bouncing Flask were the floor 1? That's interesting, because I would have expected to see that set then somewhere else. I don't freaking know how the code for this game works. Yeah, on floor 0. But like, you saw what I showed for the Defect seed is, when this card reward was generated behind the scenes and discarded for the Calling Bell swap, then it just bumped it forward directly. But on here, it's not bumping forward directly. Yeah, delicious spaghetti. DM'd a Yagbot question. All right, I'll take a look after stream sometime. Thank you for popping in, and I'm sure I'll see you around. Take care. All right, what am I doing here? This is floor 5. That's why I can't scroll over anymore. So a lot of people clicking Riddle with Holes here. I'm assuming this is all Snecko folks. People who swapped into Snecko, because otherwise that is not really a card that I look at. Yeah, Agony again, damage. Dagger Spray, AoE damage. Some decent spread of shop options happening here. Remove Regret, I think, is pretty clear. Everyone who got it from the box or from, I believe it was the Niao Transform 2 for Curse, and the Curse was Regret there. So yeah, a lot of people pathing into an early shop to get rid of that one. Makes sense. Plans, good card. Terror, good card. Yeah. I don't know how much is worth highlighting here. This is a... Why does this say 2? I should say 1. I remember fixing this beforehand because Jam Jam showed up twice for whatever reason, because technology is garbage is the reason. But yeah, kind of funny to see a perfect 1-1-1-1 split there. And that should say 4. Okay. Indeed. Indeed. Yeah. And the sheet is pinned, so you guys can browse at your own leisure as well. If you see anything else in here that you think is worth highlighting, let me know, and I will get around to it. That is the detail sheet, so it is too detail for talking about outside of the sort of zoom in type thing that we were doing before. Another new sheet, this one by request of Boot. For everyone who has the Relic Stats mod installed, it's not required for Seed of the Week, but I do recommend it. It's a good mod, just tracks extra stats about your run. Sort of who had the best performing X, Y, or Z. Boot gets the best ice cream. Cereal bars, best Regal pillow. I don't know how to parse the Gremlin Horn stats. I don't know why there are 2 numbers, and if somebody else does know, then feel free to let me know. But this frickin' branch, guys. Like, yeah, Closer wins the branch at 555, but like, average of 313 cards generated. Average. Of everyone who got the branch, you're averaging over 300. That's stupid. This relic is stupid. Especially on a character with easy access to shivs. Oh, energy and card. Right. Sometimes you draw not on your turn, you get energy this loss. That makes sense. Yeah, thank you for clarifying. Yeah, Omamori, not everyone got 2 charges used. Or paint. Upgrades. Some cards. Linosaurus had only 1 survivor left to upgrade. Kind of funny. Cursed Key. Having a couple curses. I think it still counts as 2, even if the curse is blocked by Omamori. Worth noting. Peace Pipe, only Lilite got to use it. Assess and Cereal Bars doing a lot of snoozing with the Dreamcatcher. Winning the Lizard Tail, yeah. I think winning by default on that one, actually. Most people didn't find Lizard Tail, but hey, a win's a win. And lost. Unfortunate. Yeah. Art of War. Not doing like a crazy amount. When 14 energy gen is the high bar across the entire run, it's like, I mean, again, it's the stick, right? You're kind of, most people are probably card spamming too much for Art of War to be all that helpful. Ring of the Snake high scores, I guess mostly just 2 pathed into most combats. Ceramic Fish 198, big deck, energy. Blood Vial again, who pathed into the most combats. Puzzle exists, fan, card spam, shiv spam. Good stuff. Look at this pantograph. Snekawai, I guess this is the like count of 0, 1, 2, 3 cost cards generated. Bane Rap still lives rent free. Hell yeah. Yeah, different. Interesting, like some people get the exact same P box. I guess that's with the exact same pathing. Kind of thing. So there's like a couple P boxes that you can get here, and you got one of those. Interesting. Tiny chest. Sometimes replacing itself. Excellent, epic relic. Couldn't just like give the relic that you would have gotten from the tiny chest eventually and not lose an entire floor for it? No? Too much to ask? Just me? No? Okay. Crovan healing 77 from the Waffle of the Gods. Tongs upgrading 40 cards for Tony. Hell yeah. It's so bad, dude. It's such a bad relic. Sozu blocking 5 potions. Velati, I guess, being the only person who clicked Sozu with Relic Stats mod active. Sometimes you get to lose a 2nd floor for a boot. Holy, now we're cooking. Snecko Skull. I wonder if Walker Steel was doing anything funny here. I know a bunch of people took Bouncing Flask at least. I don't know if there were any Envenoms happening. Chem X existed. Letter Opener existed. 80 numbers, etc., etc. Yeah. So we looked at boss relics already. We didn't look at cards yet. what cards we got? Tactician jumping out as strong pick, and Outma. And these actually really don't surprise me, again, in light of the stick. You know, it is a funny stick, it makes more cards, and typically you want energy to be able to play all of those cards. Because, you know, it's basically card draw. It's just, instead of drawing from the pool of cards in your deck, it's drawing from just the pool of cards on silent across the board. Also Snecko, for people who swapped into Snecko, very energy hungry relic as well. Ice Cream, yeah, doing a lot with Outma. I know a lot of people just playing Outma basically on site at that point because, you know, you have the Ice Cream, you can just keep it around if it's not setting up a specific blowout turn next turn. And with a Toxic Egg, it comes upgraded. Of Outma Minus, I find is a much higher, harder sell than Outma Plus, but, you know, it was a plus when everyone found it, I'm pretty sure. Blur stepping in is a sort of sleeper hit here as well, plus 13%, which is kind of interesting. Blur is a card that I find personally that it works when you can cycle it a lot, and get the sort of like Blurricade stuff going as a thing, but that's not really, you know, Snecko and Branch both don't exactly speak to that. So which kind of decks was this showing up in? Poison deck, some Intange Monkey. Okay, so I guess in that sense with Intangible, if like you have a blur and now you get to save chip on your next turn as well. So there's some of that. Baylor having very little scaling in this deck, actually, just the blur footwork PK. I don't know if anybody watched this run and remembers, like, did he have actual Blurricade stuff going, or was it just kind of like an add-on on the side? I'm curious, but yeah, that's a thing. Scrubby had some blurs. Wrist had some blurs. Okay, so a bunch of the showing up across the board, and a lot of them in the uncategorized runs. A lot of these had blurs, so I guess that being a sort of block plan if you're not going, you know, all in on Intangible. A light offered an Venom at the end of Act 2, outmaneuver Ice Cream, or just Burst, yeah. Scrubby, I skipped all outmaneuvers plus am I smoking? Not necessarily. It's a card that, like, I don't always take it by any means. There are some decks that don't want it, but I think, like, on average, this seed had a lot of things that were speaking towards just give me energy, right? Just like there's going to be an output for it somewhere at some point somehow, and just sort of stocking up where you can in order to make the most of, you know, the stick cards and everything else that you happen to be getting. But hey, like, you remember your run almost certainly better than, or you know your run better than any of the rest of us. If you didn't feel like it was hurting for energy at any point and you were, like, comfortably ending your turns, then hey, like, stick to the cards that actually give you output instead of the cards that proxy give you output by allowing you to play the output that you're drawing into. So yeah, just sort of the general thing Inspire of keep your eyes open for how does this deck die, right? Where is my bottleneck? You know, what types of things am I most scared about? And if what you're scared of is, you know, just not being able to play your cards, just being too energy starved, then you look for energy. If it's consistency of, you know, you're not having the cards in hand that you need to have on the right turns, then you look for, you know, acros and well-laid plans and, you know, things of that kind to help smooth over the weird draws. It's just sort of the general, like, where are my Achilles heels and what kind of cards help the most with that, and that's going to depend, you know, from one run to the next, not just based on the seed, but based on all of your earlier picks, based on your pathing, based on your potion use, based on, like, a billion different things. That's part of what makes this game so fun and so replayable. So that's my long-winded way of saying it depends, but yeah, it's the Spire, it depends. Just things to keep an eye out for, I guess. Yeah, it depends. Why are they saying it fucking twice? Technology is garbage, you guys. Whatever. Turn it off on that side. I think this one's actually me being garbage and just adding in 2 spots and forgetting, but whatever. So what else we got here? Wraith form. Yeah, we saw the giant stack of intangible monkey. Nightmare. We saw the giant stack of intangible monkey. Apparition. We saw the finishers. Funny again with Shiv spam with branch. I find one of the biggest issues with finisher is just being able to line it up on a good turn, of having like the multiple attacks in hand at the same time that you want to play that big finisher. And there were well-laid plans on this seed. You know, it was most, like 97%, all but one winning deck had a copy of well-laid plans in it. So you've got that just at a baseline. And then, you know, stick as well probably generates more attacks that you can spam with finisher. So there's more than usual speaking for it there. Yeah. Bouncing Flask being negative is interesting. I wonder if this is from people greeting it early on against Slime Boss, maybe in part, because it is a tough pick in a Slime Boss act, I find. It's slow damage before the split, so it's hard to set up a good split with it, and the fact that it's random targeting makes it pretty difficult after the split to burst down as well. So if it's something that you're really relying on for damage and you don't find like the katas early and that kind of thing, it can be, you know, can be tricky. But yeah, defend sucks. Remove all of your defends immediately, please. Strike sucks even more. Remove them even more immediately. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, dude. Was there a P box? Yeah, there were P boxes on this seed. So, strike and defend sucks basically just means P box is good. I hope we all kind of knew that already. Lots of winning runs on this one. Ours was slow again, co-op. Milo, congrats on being the slowest. Byron, congrats on being the fastest. Everyone else somewhere in this general bucket, and sort of also generally where people are ending. Swappers get P-Box in Act 1. Yeah. Yeah. Seed of the Week continues to be Swapaganda. 55. Who had a 55 card deck? Kuro. Nice. Yeah. Getting all that ceramic fish value, I imagine. Yeah, 31 to 55 of... It's just like... Silent decks can get so large. And this kind of thing just pops into my head every time I see somebody like, you know, you have so many cards in your deck already. Like, is it getting too large? No. Can you cycle fast enough? Like, can you draw into the cards that you need to draw into at the time when you need to draw them? That's all that matters. If you trust in the stick enough, then you can kind of just lean into that, and then your deck is just a pile of things that can generate stick cards, and that works too. But Silent has tons of ways to cycle really, really quickly, and I find that cycle time is a much better metric to care about than deck size. And by cycle time, I mean, on average, how many turns does it take you to see every card in your entire deck? Because the problem with really big decks is if you have a huge deck and no card draw, no cycling, no consistency, and like 1 or 2 key powers or something that you need to get in play early, there's basically there's no consistency with that, right? You bottom deck it and you're just screwed. You don't draw into it until like turn 7 or something, and then what the hell are you doing? But if you have a lot of draw, if you have, you know, say 3 or 4 acros, as many of the winning decks this seed did, you know, it doesn't matter that your deck is a billion cards. You just acro and then gamble past them, and then you have what you need. And, you know, so yeah, cycle time is just my little plug there. 55 card deck, good if you can get through it. Lots of relics this seed, up to 22. Who are they? Most relics. Walker Steel, Hermione, and Kuro again. Most cards and most relics. I believe Kuro's entire form comment on this one was just, I farmed. So, yep. Farming. Damage we kind of looked at already. Just Snecko Eye floor 1 into just generally everybody having a pretty good time on this one. Like, Those Act 3s, though, that's a lot of zeros. That's just really a lot of zeros. And similarly, if we look at the stall tab of just like, this is how many turns did any given fight last? For Act 3, that's a lot of 1s and 2s. Right? That's a lot of, like, normally you see much bigger numbers as the game goes on, but, like, no, people are still killing in 1 or 2 turns because the things get silly and snowball. Yeah. Not a ton of elite farming in Act 1 on this one. I think from what I remember, this was just sort of a consequence of a weird map. Killed Nemesis turn 1, I'd believe it. Let me zoom in on these again. But yeah, I remember this being a tricky map where it's like you had to kind of, if you wanted to get more than 1 elite, you had to commit early on without, like, maybe it was without a campfire or without, like, a, you know, an out of some kind. I do remember Wet and I having this debate of do we commit to 2 elites from the outset, or do we, you know, take the safer path that gives us, you know, 1 with a bailout and then, you know, other chances to, like, other ways to get value out of, like, more upgrades or what have you? Because, like, yeah, 3 to 4 upgrades for most people in Act 1. That's a lot. Excuse me. So, yeah. Good job to the farmers, but understandable that it was not as farm-heavy of a run this time round from the get-go. 2 shops early. Again, Silent, that makes more sense. I do like early shops on Silent a lot more than the other characters. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Somebody hit 0 events in Act 2 on this seed. That's interesting. Yeah, averaging, for always, a few elites, a few events, and a shop. Fair. Also, lots of rests, just in general. 3 to 4, 3, 2 to 3. Lots of snoozers and or upgraders. Makes sense. Shout out to that one person who took 9 hallways. Almost never double shop in 1 act unless the first shop is really bad. Is that a leak? I think almost never, then I would say probably. Of rarely, yeah, that's fine. Of, you know, wanting to save up your value and hit, like, bigger shops so that there's fewer dead nodes, I think is reasonable. But this sort of goes back to what I was saying when we were looking at Cookie's run earlier, of on Silent especially, your early deck, like, your starter deck is garbage, right? You have just a whole bunch of strikes. You have like 5 strikes and 5 defends and 2 other basic cards that don't give you any kind of output. And you need that output. And so if that means pathing into an early shop on not that much gold to be able to get it, and then maybe hitting up another later shop before the boss to, like, you know, okay, I need a potion, I need a something to get me through this one, right? Like, you can't necessarily afford to save up and go for big shops, because that is, like, it's inherently greedy, right? And greed isn't always bad. Greed often is good. It's about, like, you know, making, like, maximizing your opportunities and, like, playing for the long term, and that definitely means going to fewer shops and making them hit harder. But Silent, I find, especially often can't afford that kind of long-term early greed, especially in Act 1. And in any run in general, if you're, like, coming from behind, you know, if it's a low roll, your back is up against the wall, you don't want to be thinking, like, well, if I save up, you know, a whole bunch more money, I can have a 350 gold shop in, you know, 5 floors. You're thinking, do I even survive the next 5 floors, right? Am I going to get owned by this next forced elite, you know, coming up in a couple of floors? And to avoid that, you know, maybe I only have, like, 80 or 100 gold, and I normally wouldn't path into a shop at that point, but I kind of gotta here. I gotta look for something that will let me help. Or even I gotta look for something that will let me dodge this otherwise, you know, forced really bad path, and if that means 1 dead node from a shop where I guaranteed can't buy anything, sometimes that's a play as well. It's not a good choice to have to make, like, it sucks in the moment, but when it's, like, the best of bad alternatives, you know, it does happen. So those are the kinds of questions that I would be thinking towards personally, of, you know, if a double shot path is correct, and it seems that it was for A lot of people on this seed. Oh, that's not shops. A lot of people in Act 1, especially on this seed. Nobody took double shop in Act 2 or 3, which I think makes sense. Again, going to what I was saying is you typically look towards double shop when you're coming from behind and you need near-term value, and this run kind of started snowballing a little bit out of control by, I think, by mid-Act 2, from what I recall. So nobody feeling the need to do that, but getting through Act 1, especially in a slime boss act, yeah, makes total sense to me. Pretty even split of green keys as well, interestingly. Most people not going in Act 2, but 1 and 3. Don't know what to say about that, but neat. A trend has been cited. 3 elites, 2 to 4 elites. One person taking 9 hallways and the rest of us kind of down here. Yeah, Act 3 is weird, honestly. I feel like I keep going back and forth on Act 3 pathing a lot, on like, when are the hallways worth it? When are the events worth it? When are like none of them worth it? And you just kind of want to get to the bosses in one piece. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, other than Spire is hard and there's a lot of things to think about. Path detail, we don't need to look at those. That's overwhelming. General choices in Act 1. So this is like this tab, but kind of condensed and going towards more floors. So, you know, a lot of people taking kind of dagger throw early. I don't know why those are out of order. Yeah, most people taking the donut when it's on floor 2 because you don't have anything to heal yet. Some people going, one person going for box early, probably pathing into the shop on the next floor immediately. And remove regret, plans, terror, all good stuff. Dash, good card, and a smattering of other cards that we've kind of talked about. Similar shop here on floor 4. Similar big fish, but more people going for the banana because more time to get shipped down, especially, I guess, if you're on Snecko and got owned floor 1. And similar shop. We've seen that card reward before. And this is, you can kind of see when we get to this point, this is why I stopped doing the detailed first 5 floor split tab after this, because it starts to get like really branching paths of plenty of different things that people will smith. Lots of different card reward options. Footwork coming in as early scaling. Blade Dance, it comes upgraded. Early Toxic Egg, love to see it. Doppelganger, strong card. Deadly Poison. Slime Boss Act, tougher, but again, a bunch of people finding, you know, poison early, and there was that Bouncing Flask early of, you know, I can definitely see going all in on that. What are the catalysts? Oh, not Kara. I guess they were transforms, because those don't show up on this tab. I should get that added at some point. Yeah. Gamble, Footwork, Doppel, Blade Dance, all very strong. Seeing more of the same again. Prepared. Another card that I just keep getting higher and higher on the more I play Silent. Even before it's upgraded, like it wants an upgrade, sure, but it does a decent amount even without one. I'm sure it doesn't dig you deeper into your deck than you would have gotten before you had the Prepared in your deck, but it does proc discard synergies, and Silent has a lot of those that are worth taking, and the extra consistency that you get from this guy is just really handy. Yeah, split here. Early Orrery, floor 13, you love to see it. Definitely strong. People removing Strike early, being bailed out by a Waffle, or some good damage potions here into Slime Boss. It's just, there's so many freaking things that people could do or buy at this point. Lots of Smith. Lots of people smithing Footwork, which I think also says something about the strength of the run at this point. Like, being in a position where you feel like you can smith a defensive power into Silent's worst Act 1 boss matchup where you need damage to do a good split. Like, you're ahead. You're ahead by that point. Toxic Egg is good, turns out. Yeah. Bunch of skips here as well, getting to the point where it's like, okay, I know what my deck is doing. I don't need all this stuff. Early After Image, very nice. Acros, Outmas, we talked about already. taking accuracy, and then nobody immediately upgraded it. That's interesting. Yeah. Lots of good stuff. Snoozing into Slime Boss as well. Totally reasonable. I think actually, where's the frickin' respect tab? There. Yeah. Lots of resters into Slime Boss, even up to 37 HP. Some people are resting. Mixed bag. A couple people didn't at 23, disrespecting the Slimbo. Hopefully you were ahead of curve enough for that to be good. One person on 1 HP limping into the rest site before the Act 2 boss. Who was that? Jam Jam. And it worked out in the end. Kudos, Jam Jam. Shoutouts there. Yeah, these are Act 3 is tougher because I assume at least some of these were forced red key. So that's a thing. Resting on 60, I'm assuming that was probably I don't really have good card upgrade options, so let's at least get Dreamcatcher value out of this node. May as well. Yeah. I think that is most of the tabs here. So unless anybody else has other sort of like questions or call-outs, things you want to dig deeper into, either from your run or other runs, I'll kind of leave open floor for a minute or two before I switch over to the Defect seed. But yeah, Dead Branch is good. Silent Rock's Nightmare Wraith form turns out is kind of strong, so is Nightmare Apps, especially when you have an early Toxic Egg and the apps come upgraded. But yeah, it's... And, like, worth noting as well, despite all that, this was not a free seed, right? Slime Boss especially was threatening. I remember this being a challenging Act 1. Like, it didn't really start to snowball that hard until Act 2, from what I recall. So it's, like, no seed is really free. You know, I guess there's a small minority of seeds that, like, just give you a whole bunch of broken shit from the very, very, very beginning. You know, maybe a broken, like, P-box swap or something. But for the most part, it comes throughout the run. You have to assemble the pieces. And so this was a strong seed. It had a lot of good pieces to it. But you do have to, like, reach for them and pull them together and pilot your way through to it. So... for everyone who did manage to, you know, pilot their way through to a win, kudos, legitimately. 16 damage to Jawworm was tilted. Yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen. Silent and Jawworm, not the best matchup in the best of times, doubly so if you Snecko swap. Unironically, actually, I've said this before as well, I like Niao's Lament a lot better on Silent as well than I do on most of the other characters. For, again, similar reasons of your starter deck just sucks and you were behind on damage. Unironically, even if you can't snipe an elite, you can snipe Jawworm, and sometimes that's enough, right? It's obviously way better if you can get an elite snipe out of Lament, but I think it's still pickable a lot of the time, even if you can't, because I look at it as like current HP as opposed to max HP of, like, you know, you can get, I don't know, 7 max HP from Niao, and that's relatively underwhelming because it's only 7, but you know, the amount of current HP that a snipe can save you across the first few hallways, and just knowing, like, having the certainty that you're not going to take 16 to the face on floor 1 and have a hard time coming back from it if you just don't find, like, good potions or whatever else. Just being able to plan around that and have the certainty that, okay, I will have a good amount of HP coming into this node where I can then make these decisions, blah, blah, blah. It's a good safety net. I think it's better than a consolation prize. You know, it's certainly not my favorite Niao option, but I think it's a lot more pickable than a lot of people give it credit for, even outside of Elite Snipe territory. That's my little Lament plug. But yeah, I would scroll these, but again, good problems to have. There are a lot of them now. A lot of people enjoying Seed of the Week, which is great to see. Light saying planning to go sleep in between the seeds. Good night. Have a great recap. Thanks, Light. Have a good rest. Have a good sleep, and I'm sure I'll see you around. Take care. But yeah, if you guys do want to skim these yourself, there's some fun comments in here. I remember reading through myself, but I will not go through them all in detail on stream. I think this is probably a good time to switch to the robot then. So let's take a look. Once again, robot is strong. Remember I was saying on this last one that it was a remarkably even set of Niao. Yeah, this is what the Niaos normally look like. Is there's one or two that almost everybody gravitates towards, and then one or two that's almost universally ignored or panned. We did have at least one person choosing all four of them on this one, but most people, myself included, going for 100 gold. Seed of the Week continues to be boss swap propaganda of, everybody who picked the boss swap at least got to Act 3, and most of them won, so kudos to you on that. It was a super freaking strong bell from the beginning, so not insanely surprising. Remove, maybe it's just secretly super OP and we're all sleeping on it, who knows. 20% max HP for gold as well. Fed myself to jawworms. Understandable. They're hungry sometimes, as one does. Yeah. They're rough. They're rough. Act 3 hallways can be unforgiving if your deck doesn't have the front load necessary for them at that point. And it is kind of a deck check in a sense of they're pretty merciless, but I feel like most decks where I get that owned by Act 3 hallways, I'm kind of the mindset of I wouldn't have gotten through Shield and Spear in one piece with this pile of cards anyway. So it's just sort of a shortcut in a way, shortcut back to Neo. But yeah, they are very relevant deck checks and worth respecting in my mind. I think my favorite thing about this run is this. Can you guys see my cursor? I can't remember. But Runic Pyramid. Runic Pyramid. The worst performing Act 2 boss relic. Ignore the Fusion Hammer. Because Fusion Hammer was good. Act 1. Can see cursor. Cool. But everybody kind of just defaults, I feel like, to Pyramid, GG. It's crazy strong. It's just a good relic. You see the pyramid, you click the pyramid unless you have something really, really speaking against it. Sure, if you have, Snecko Eye or something, then you skip the pyramid, but, there wasn't a Snecko Eye in this run. Nobody had Snecko. There wasn't a Dead Branch. There wasn't obvious Clogamid, so you see the pyramid, you should probably click it. Especially because a bunch of people had big genetic algorithms and stuff by then. Being able to line those up on the right turns, it's super valuable. And it is. Unironically, it is. And I'm not undercutting that at all. But energy is really good. And consistency is very good. That's what Pyramid offers. It's like the ultimate consistency add to a deck. But Pocket Watch is already a hell of a lot of consistency. Plus 3 cards per turn. That's 3 entire cards to draw. That is many. And energy can be used to play some of those 3 entire cards. And with this end of Act 1 start, a lot of people taking Calling Bell Sacred Bark, which is non-energy, and so if you're going, Pyramid on that front as well, that's, locked into a 3 energy run, unless you took, Hammer of Philo, 4 energy still. But yeah, an 8 card hand with +1 energy isn't that much worse than a 10 card hand. Yeah, exactly. And granted, it's 10 cards that you can specifically hold and line up on the right turns, but energy is really, really good. And deck clog is sometimes really, really bad. And I do remember watching, or at least skimming through a couple pyramid runs on this seed, and they did seem challenging. No, please contribute. If you saw any of the runs being played, I'm super interested to hear that, or even just general thoughts like that on the relics in general. Tony's saying, I bet the losing pyramid runs would likely lose with other relics too. I'm not so sure, honestly. I'm not so sure. Killer Scrubby saying earlier, Pyramid killed me unironically, and I believe it on this seed. From some of the Pyramid runs that I watched or skimmed, the clog was real. There wasn't a lot of sources of energy this run. It wasn't, drowning in aggregates and turbos and, double energy of recycle. There wasn't a lot of that usual get stuff out. There's some of it, an aggregate, a turbo, a charge battery, a fission. Womble didn't have any. 1 turbo the entire run. 1 turbo, there's some, but this isn't crazy amounts of energy for the most part, right? Dax saying wanted to hold algo with a mid and then ended up not needing it. Abu had bottled aggregate. Okay. So like, yeah, I'm not saying a mid is bad across the board by any means, right? By any means. I'm just saying these 6 losses I think are very interesting to me. And this was, Wet and I analyzed this one as well and went for the dripper, which admittedly it was a very free dripper, and I think a lot of people identified that, including people who went with Pyramid, of like, free dripper, but it's a mid though, kind of thing. Of, a mid is the worst relic in the game. Suki, probably. Feel free to clip that out of context if you like. Not Dork did win this seed. We're actually, not to jinx it, but we're on a full rotation streak now for seed of the week. We got 1 of each. Clad, Silent, Defect. Looking to make it 4 tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, snaps indeed. But yeah, the pyramid on this one, like, I genuinely think the pyramid would have caused problems for us in Act 3 and 4. And if we skip ahead to our shiny new relic stats tab, where's the Pocket Watch? This is what we were doing. This is what we, God. This is what we were doing. It says $6.99. We leaned into our Pocket Watch hard. It was over 2.5 cards per turn across the entire run, and we got this thing early. We didn't swap into it, granted, but we did get it pretty damn early. It's a good relic. It's a really, really good relic, and the level of consistency that it offers is huge. And just being able to play the extra cards that it draws for us and have, you know, that freedom, it did a lot. The energy played really hard, and a mid would have shut this off pretty much completely. Like, not on turn 1. I think people overstate a little bit the non-bow-ness of Pocket Watch Pyramid, because it means that you can play like a couple cards on turn 1 and then have a completely full hand on turn 2, and that is beneficial. It's just not like pop the fuck off the way that Pocket Watch often does outside of Pyramid beneficial. Patchy saying, didn't like this week's run very much, but I didn't go too far. If I go down this path, I'll die, so I went down and it died anyway. Yeah, that can happen. That can happen. Was it sort of a YOLO decision of just deciding to go down it anyway, or did it really feel like there are just no better options here? You know, I have to take a risk somewhere, and I might as well take this one. But yeah. This is my Pocket Watch evangelism rant of Pocket Watch is good. Pyramid is not always an insta-click. It is still incredibly strong. It is still the Pyramid. You should probably still take it if you are at all questioning, you know, is it good here? The answer is probably going to be yes. But I think there were some big things speaking against it in this seed and some big things speaking for the Dripper. And, you know, stats-wise, you know, win rate, Dripper kind of owned. I think it could have done Claw justice if you didn't Pyramid. Oh yeah, you tried the Claw. You tried the Claw on this one. How far did you get with that again? All the way to the heart. Hell yeah. I mean, you can always run Resumer it if you have the mod. If you do, I would be very curious to hear how it goes. Badger saying, greeted hard, got punished, no reason to do what I did. Sometimes it's just experimentation, right? Of like, how far can I push this character? Next week you will see a very weird stat from me. Interesting. Please give no additional spoilers. I'm not playing the seed till tomorrow, but I am color me intrigued. Is all I will say on that matter. I like stats. Let's look at cards. Sender's Bane. 100% of winning decks had this card in it. OP. Absolutely OP. This is why it's a 0% versus average win rate. What else is jumping out is above average. Core Surge is good. Yeah. Bias Cog is good, especially when there are easily accessible Core Surges from Act 1. Shocking. Beam Cell is strong. Seek, Sunder. Yeah. Sunder is a good card. Energy. We were just talking about how much energy is useful. Self-Repair. I hope everyone here is, you know, on the Self-Repair is good train. The Pyramid at Home card, if you don't click Pyramid in general, or, you know, even if you do, just to summon it in the first place. Its consistency, it's quite good. Wet and I had this one alongside our pocket watch, kind of got the best of both worlds a little bit there, I think, of playing Equi on the turns where we really needed to hold something and letting it fly when we needed to avoid the clog. Blind is maybe like a sleeper pick, I think, here. A little bit on Defect in particular, of, you know, if you're hiding behind a wall of frost focus in general, of if the engine is slow to get going and there's like some big early hits coming in at you from just like Time Eater decides to be an asshole on turn 1 kind of deal, having something that can block for a lot for 0 on early turns of, you know, weakness, the amount of block you get from weakness scales with the amount of asshole that the enemy is being, right? So it kind of is what you need it to be in some of those matchups if your deck is a bit slower to get rolling, as I think a lot of Defects decks are. Mabu had Enlightenment, Sunder, and a mid. That sounds like a fun combo. Where's Enlightenment on here? Enlightenment is OP. The one person who took it won. Only 3% of winning decks had this card. But yeah. You are the one and only Enlightenment gamer. Congratulations. Yeah, I feel like this isn't a card that most people normally don't look at too hard, but maybe this is a good reason to, of especially when you have Pyramid and combos like, you know, Discount Sunder that can make it pop off a little extra. Sometimes the combo stuff, you know, sometimes it's a little too cute, but sometimes it's just a hell of a lot of fun and what the deck needs. So identifying those moments. Thumbs up. Boot sequence, also basically what I was saying with the blind, except it's also innate for free immediately. Good card. Loop, yeah, we talked about. Amplify, when you have the good powers and the consistency to line Amplify up alongside them. Actually, this reminds me of the Core Surge Bias Cog. I'm trying to remember the exact quote now, but Zeknar was talking about these a little while ago, and I think the comparison he made for Core Surge was actually like the burst. Like burst on silent. Core Surge is Defect burst in a way, because it's one where it does the most when you can line it up with Biased Cog, but if they're like too far apart in your deck, if you don't have the consistency to line them up together, you know, it's still doing something, right? Like you can block a debuff with it, that's better than nothing. You can burst a defend plus, maybe, that's better than nothing. But they are especially strong when you have the deck consistency to at least mostly guarantee them together, which I think this run had a lot of pieces to enable that. Obviously Pyramid, easy Equis, there's, you know, a decent amount of draw, I believe. There's Seek from early on, so lots of guarantees in that sense. And Amplify is in a similar bucket there but like even more so of you have to line it up alongside your powers for it to do literally anything at all. You know, there isn't even a consolation prize aspect to it, but it can be really, really strong when you do line it up. So if you're in a position to do that, then go nuts. And then we get down to just the low sample size stuff where, you know, you can't really take a lot out of. Claw. Sadness. Alexa, play Despacito. Anyway, events. What are we looking at here? Most people taking the Ritual Dagger and getting it pretty large. Another new tab. I had 5 Ritual Daggers with relic stats, and the smallest of them being 90. Also, genetic algorithm. Zeknar is mildly insane. Early algorithm upgrade, Strange Spoon, Echo Form, and the willingness to stall for it can do some ridiculousness. 261. That was his entire form submission comment as well. Just 261. Yeah. Shoutouts Byron at 236. Boot at 229 without even upgrading the damn thing. So, yeah. 1 energy block, 261. Is that good? But that actually is worth noting. Calipers did not show up in this run. And I think it's absolutely worth doing the stall thing if you're committed to, you know, win rate play and you don't mind doing, you know, plan stuff. It is worthwhile to continue to buff it up just for the chance of, if you get calipers in the future, to open up the chance to carry over all of that absurd overblocking. But most of the time, and if you don't find calipers, it's just like, after a certain point, it's an apparition anyway, right? It's a 1 energy block all incoming damage, right? And amping it up significantly past, it's like you're already blocking all incoming damage. This is just overkill. And Zeknar called this out at the time when he was upgrading genetic algorithm. He's like, this is not a good upgrade. You know, if I was playing 100% for win rate here, it would be a different upgrade for that same reason of like, this is overkill. And you can see that 261, it's overkill. It's ridiculous. You don't need it to say 261. It's saying like 100 is most of the time identical to it saying 261. It's just fun to play a number go up simulator sometimes and try to go for high scores. But yeah, a little rant on just the genetic algorithm upgrade in general and when it's actually worth doing, which a lot of the time maybe not so much. It's overkill, Master. Investigation is implied in our mandate. This is a reference that I do not get. Unfortunate. What was I looking at that made me go over to the GAs? Is it just cards? Did we finish with the cards? I can't remember. Oh, it was the events. Right, and we're looking at the ritual daggers. That's where we were. I'm back here. Mabu not giving the beggar money. SMH my head, he will not eat tonight because of you. I don't know, dude. Mysterious Sphere. This is an interesting one, I feel. 3 people ignoring it, but all 3 of them winning the run. And if we check damage on here, you know, Orb Walkers, fight kind of owned a lot of people. 46, 42, 41, 56, 47. And that's not even to say, you know, 52. That's before you even look into, you know, a bunch of people probably had to spend high value potions to get through this fight as well in one piece. So you have a chance to take a lot here. You know, if you know your deck can take it, you know, kudos Nalay getting through it on freaking 0. I don't know what your deck was doing, but something right, clearly. But this can be a very, very taxing fight. And not just in Seed of the Week, but just in random runs that, like, I've watched people play on Twitch lately. I feel like there's been a bunch of cases where, you know, Orb Walkers doesn't kill you, but it kind of does, right? And going all the way back to what I was talking about with Silent and snowballing early value, this is kind of the inverse of that. Of, you know, losing a key potion and taking frickin' 40-something damage to the face, the rest of your plan for the rest of the act kind of has to change at that point, right? You just cannot be as aggressive as you are otherwise going to be. And yeah, if you're going to a shop the next floor, you can, you know, maybe rebuy the potions. You have stuff that you don't particularly care about. I'm not saying you should never take this event by any means. Sometimes it's worth spending the HP. Rare relics are good. If you have a good enough matchup, especially, go for it. But it's one to be careful about, is all I'm saying. Yeah, it's like Scrappoos. You can't just walk away. I mean, you can walk away from Scrappoos if you don't go full dopamine clicky. Oh, but about Beggar. Yeah, fair. That makes a lot more sense. But yeah. Yeah, just, this is a taxing fight a lot of the time. And I feel like the consideration on this one, it's not just, can I get through this fight? But it's, what is the cost that I will have to pay in order to get through this fight? And is that really worth it? Took 56 to the Orb Dummies. Yeah. Ow. It happens. You know, it happens a good chunk of the time, and that can put you behind. A rare relic can certainly put you ahead. Sometimes if you're like far enough behind, it's like, okay, I need to take this anyway and go for the Hail Mary that I high roll on a rare relic that will let me win here. But there's it's sort of a weird like in between zone, right? If your run is like really far ahead and you know you can take them, right? Taking freaking 0 to them, or like 9 and maybe not a potion or whatever, sure. Relatively free rare relic, go for it if you're super ahead of curve. If you're super behind curve, then maybe it's a, you know, click for a Hail Mary. I need to high roll on a rare relic here to have any chance of beating the act boss. You know, maybe this will give me the power that I need. But if you're in that awkward in the middle zone where the run is like strong mostly, you know, it has most of the pieces but like not all of them, things could still go sideways but you're probably okay. in those sort of like in the middle bucket senses, this is a very real risk. And sometimes it's a risk that you can get through the fight, but I think the knock-on effects of what it can do to the rest of your act are something that people don't necessarily think of often enough when evaluating this fight. So that's just one to throw out of, 100% win rate on ignoring the shiny rare relic here. Not that it's a huge sample size, but you know what I mean. Everybody likes the money, understandable. Everybody likes the click 3, understandable. So again, Zeknar in someone else's chat the other day, when they were like, I don't know how to evaluate, when to click, 1 versus 3 on here, and he's like, my sensory stone evaluation is pretty simple. If I have at least 11 HP and the run is not already 1, I click 3. It's a good event. What can I say? Saw sensory stone floor 2 in Act 3. Wow. That actually kind of sucks because rare card chance is really low at that point, so it's probably an underwhelming sensory stone is my guess. I don't know if you remember exactly what you got from it, but unfortunate. This one is pretty fortunate I remember this one being like right before a shop for at least these 3 who immediately removed the doubt. Always nice when that happens. Otherwise, this is a very easy ignore for me. Found Apo, hell yeah. Just high roll. They're all uncommon, so it doesn't even raise your rare chance. Yeah. Merle saying one of my worst noob takes was that clicking 1 was always correct because colorless cards suck, apparently. We were all dumb at the beginning. This is true. I like to say just not just with Spire, but in life in general, if you're not at least a little bit embarrassed of your past self, that means you're not improving fast enough. So embrace the cringe. You're learning. Spooky ghosts. Everybody became a ghost in the last Silent Seed. Most people did not see them this time. I think most people just didn't really path into events on Act 2 on this one, from what I recall. Yeah, like 1 or 2 for the most part. Liar's Game is, yeah, the serpent. I don't know why it's called Liar's Game in the code, but yeah, it is that one. The snake giving 150 gold for doubt. And that was literally a shop on the very next floor when that one showed up for at least the 3 who did that. And yeah, not many Act 2 events that people are pathing into on this one. So, not seeing it. Mind Bloom fight, yep. Taking the relic from... What is the addict? Is this just like... I don't remember. If someone remembers this one like specifically. Yeah, the only one who found Falling, apparently. Sound Single, the only one who found Moai Head. Events are kind of weird, of like, they are path dependent in a way that I feel like a lot of card rewards are like less so. Like fights is a very good example of, these are in order, right? These are, if you take exactly 3 hallway fights, you will see these 3. Thieves, Parasite, Plant. If you take 4 fights, you will also see Centurion, Healer. If you take 5, you will also see Avocado, Rat. Doesn't matter which path you take, it's just your 5th fight in Act 2 will be this. That is just fixed. Events don't seem to do that for whatever reason. There isn't like a fixed event queue in the same way, and so people who take different paths have, yeah, just different... yeah. You may not have had a shop on the next path. I know the 3 who clicked it did. Where is Polly? Well, you are there. And yeah, you didn't take any shops in Act 1. So. Pleading Vagrant. That makes sense. Thank you. So yeah, I don't know how event chance works. I'm guessing the shrines have something to do with why they're sort of like weird and different, because there's more than 3 Act 2 events that people could have found on this one. People just saw different ones of them, so kind of weird. Spaghetti code, what are you gonna do? Speed. Saw this one. Potato, if you're here, I don't know if this was actually a 6-hour, 26-minute run, or if you just kind of left the game sitting for a while. If it was 6 hours, 20 minutes, kudos to you for sticking it out. Team Not Dork, once again, near the bottom. Turns out playing co-op makes you go slow, especially when one of the two people is me and I just play slowly in general. Hermione, congrats on fastest win of the week, unseating Croven, who I think is often at the top of the board. So Croven gotta pick it up this week if you want to make the leaderboard. Yeah, 52 card deck. 26 to 52, pretty wide spread. Up to 27 relics. I think that was our run, actually. Yeah. Team Not Dork winning the relic count race. Anything at a glance interesting for damage here? Boss swappers have a very nice first 2 floors. Insanely strong swap. Play like a Maz without the endearing personality. Hey, I mean, if it's working for you. If it's working for you. That's a lot of green. Good job, Boot. Yeah. Good job, Opem and Bookshelf also having quite a bit of green there. Otherwise, I don't think there's much to say at a glance, other than everybody had some free louses on floor 1. Yeah. I don't know. This is sort of a overly detailed most of the time chart anyway. Everybody disrespecting the Hexaghost, but I mean, it's the Hexaghost, you don't rest into Hexa. Intentionally went away from the shop for an elite instead. Maybe a mistake. Yeah, potentially. Potentially. I mean, I can't say for sure without knowing more about your run and the specific cases you were in, but I know I've definitely lost a couple Seat of the Week runs in the past, which in retrospect were in large part at least due to pathing choices. It's kind of understated, I find, of like how big of an impact pathing can really have on the success or failure of a run. I feel like when people say macro, a lot of the time we just think about like what cards do you pick, but pathing is like a really big deal. It's a really, really big deal. I wish there were easier ways to kind of showcase, like actually like overlay paths on the map for parts of these discussions, but unfortunately information at that level is not stored in run history data, sadly. Hermione saying took the gold from Niao, ended up taking the elite path instead of the only shot path in Act 1. Understandable. Longer term greed a little bit there, but hey, sometimes if you can get away with it, you can get away with it. And this seed, I do remember, at least the path that Wet and I took was very generous in Act 1 with the Frost focus. So, in good shape. Yeah, people walking into Hexa with 50 HP left, like, that's, that's the thing. Pretty quick. Lots of green. There's, is this ours? Yeah. This particular 44 being redder than usual, this was our champ fight where we just sat behind a giant wall of frost that we could not be harmed through and just kept playing more and more frost until we could kill with a giant blizzard because that was fun. And it almost got dicey at the end because we were just like kind of memeing our way through it, and then it was like, wait, he actually has like really a lot of strength now. When did that happen? But it was fine. We were fine. Everything's fine. Defect owns. Blizzard owns. Anything else worth noting in the path summaries here? Please farm. Please farm. Is especially Defect in Act 1. The elite matchups are strong. If you have a good Niao especially, which a lot of people did here, snowballing that early value forward, it's helpful. And it seems like almost everybody did that, so thumbs up. Good job. Rests are good. Yeah, not going to events in Act 2. Most people taking hallways here, which is interesting. Like unusual for Defect in particular, who I find I usually want to play more conservatively through Act 2 with Defect, but again, this run was just kind of snowballing, and it's like, okay, we're not getting severely harmed by these. I think we had ridiculous meat on the bone as well in this one from early on that was like owning and making hallways very, very safe. So it was just, let's look for, good cards and just, yeah, roll it forward. One shop for the most part in each of Acts 2 and 3. Again, going back to the silent discussion of signs that, the runs are in a good spot. People don't feel the need to be taking extra shops to, bail out of immediate near-term danger. Yeah. I don't need to look at that. Let's look at the first 5 here. Streamline. Very good card to see in my mind on floor 1. I can understand why people would go for Compile or Charge Battery here, but in my mind it's a little greedy. It's just Streamline is good early damage, and especially if you want to be farming elites, like on that 3 elite path that we just highlighted, I like the early damage a lot. If anyone's here who took the Compile or Charge Battery here and wants to speak to their logic, by all means, but yeah, for me this was a pretty clear Streamline. It seems like for the majority as well. Cold Snap is a good card. People seeing this card reward click the Cold Snap, except for, a couple people, Baylor, Whimsy, Poliel, who I think all took the Streamline on floor 1 here. Yeah, I got Data Disc too. Friend's reasoning was they're taking 5 combats in a shop. There will be opportunities to find damage before elite. Fair enough. If you're saying I'm in a safe enough spot, I can do better than Streamline. That's I guess it's a fair assessment. I personally think Streamline is a bit underrated in the sense of like it's not to me an I guess fine, I'll add that, like it's not quick slash tier kind of damage, and I think a lot of people less so these days, but I have seen people look at it that way. Yeah, the 3 people taking the rebound here over the Cold Snap all took the Streamline first, and wanting to play into that wombo combo I can understand. But otherwise, Frost. See first Frost, click first Frost is a strategy that will rarely lead you astray. Also, see Core Surge, click Core Surge. Literally everybody who saw Core Surge clicked Core Surge. Shocking, that. A lot of people going for the early Gen Alg here. A couple opting for, near-term output in the Sweeping Beam, or I don't want to stall, I'm guessing, hologram, or maybe there were other things speaking for the hologram. Streamline, leaning into the Streamline again, could be. Some other stuff. Didn't see GA. Yeah, we didn't, Wet and I didn't see it either. We did see a Glacier on floor 4, which is arguably pretty good. Just, it might be strong. This was an interesting reward screen, I think. The Aggregate versus Tempest here. And I think there were good arguments on both sides from the people who took the Tempest versus the Ag. Aggregate, I think, is just insane late game. It's not doing a ton for you early game, but, there were a lot of really strong pieces already early on that, especially if you swapped, the swap was insane. There were some very strong early card rewards, and if you're in a position to greed something like the Aggregate for longer term, when you're set up well enough to get through Act 1, friggin' go for it. The people in this bucket who took the Tempest, I think they all took the Gen Alg here. Dak, Zek, and Chaos. What? Yeah, Dak, Zek, Chaos. All 3 taking the genetic algorithm the floor before this. And that is also kind of longer term greed, right? Of, a card that says 1 energy, block 1 when you click on it. It's, it's a curse in Act 1 is what it is. And saying, I don't want 2 curses in 2 back-to-back floor 3 and floor 4. I'm going to take the one that gives me immediate output, which makes me safer to take this Gen Alg and, roll it forward and maximize it. I think that's a very valid argument as well. Abu's floor 3 was Data Disc, holy. Yeah. Relics and chests don't show up on here because it was kind of a pain in the ass to merge them. So, if you ever see numbers that don't add up of hey, there's just missing people on this floor, it's probably because they saw a chest, for example, with a Data Disc in it. Arguably pretty good. This was a funny shop from Baylor. I'm still not sure I understand completely the logic behind Art of War Deep Breath here, of leaning into the streamline a bit and just generally, Art of War good on Defect. Are combats generally better than events if you can take them? In Act 1, I would say absolutely. Of your starter deck is bad cards, and you want cards that are not bad cards to be in your deck. So combats giving you, card rewards, the chances to see more and add more and just beef up your deck more in general to get into a much more secure position. And Act 1 events, like, a lot of them scale, in a sense, with the cards that are already in your deck, right? Like Shining Light, take a bunch of damage and upgrade 2 cards. If you haven't gone to a bunch of combats already and you don't have good cards, you're paying a bunch of HP for, like, Defend plus, Strike plus. Like, great, cool, awesome. Mostly a dead floor, arguably worse than Skip. And I feel like there's a lot of Act 1 events like that, of, Serpent, Liar's Game. If you're not pathing into a shop immediately, that's just, a dead floor completely of, no, I don't want a doubt for, a small amount of gold that I won't be able to convert into value for a while, thanks, but no thanks. If you find, the box donut banana before you have taken too much damage, if you path into an event very early, 5 max HP, it's better than nothing, I guess, but mostly, I feel like you can get a lot more value out of early combats in that sense and buffing your deck up than you can out of most of the Act 1 events. There are exceptions. There are some good ones, Golden Idol is good, but it's also good in, like, a longer term sense. I think, like, Living Wall is a nice one to see early. Get, like, an early transform or a key upgrade or something. But yeah, broadly speaking, early Act 1, I would gravitate towards as many combats as you feel you can safely take based on the rest of the path that you want to go down. Later in the game, it's the classic, it depends, it's Spire. It's just the, like, multifaceted million variable equation of which gives me more value here. And generally the type of value that you get from hallway fights is, more card rewards, which means, the more hallways you take, that's the higher chance to see rare cards, and it's the higher chance to see specific cards that your deck would really, really benefit from. Which is kind of a different evaluation than Act 1, when it's just like, give me value, give me output, give me a deck that isn't all basics, right? As the game goes on, you get pickier, but seeing more card rewards just in total gives you the opportunity to be pickier and more selective and have the, like, really good stuff show up. So it's seeing good cards and the cards that you really want. It's getting gold, which, I think is obvious. You can spend the gold for lots of good stuff. And it's potion chance. Especially if you are ahead of curve and you're not throwing potions at hallway fights, being able to stock up potions for the long game, and kind of hoard a belt of really, really strong Act 4 potions, especially on Defect, is something that I find I try to do. Like, Act 4 is just so bad, I will carry a Gambler's Brew from Act 1 if I can. Just, like, hold it in a corner of the belt. This is my don't die to Spire Elites turn 2 type of thing. Yeah. And so farming hallways to look for those potions, long term if you're in a position to greed them long term, or short term if you need something to be able to farm elites short term. Yeah, damage potions so you can take more Act 1 elites, exactly. So yeah, that's the general value you get out of, I think, combats, is looking for good cards, gold, and potions that you can convert into either near-term or long-term value depending on your pathing. Events are, well, for one, they're safe, relatively speaking. I mean, shit like, the Gremlin Wheel shivving you exists, or, Forgotten Altar exists, but in general, events are safer. They do not, they don't chip away at your health the same way that hallway fights can chip away at your health if you have bad matchups or you're behind curve or what have you. And sometimes there are really strong events that you're specifically looking for, right? If you're looking for apparitions or bites, or sacred, or not sacred, cursed tome, or thwack, or, there are events that can make a really big difference to your run, and you can, like, sometimes want to prioritize events to look for those specifically, because it's like, if I find Necronomicon, then I am just, like, chilling all the way to the heart. And I want to actively look for events to try to find that, and that's more valuable to me than, hallway fights. I guess the other hallway fight one that I didn't mention is like meta-scaling stuff, right? But hopefully that's a little more obvious. If you have like a feed in your deck, you want more feed procs. If you have a genetic algorithm, you want to proc that. Ritual Dagger, Alchemize, all that kind of good stuff that you can only get value from in combat. The more combats you take, the more you get out of those. So, yeah. TLDR, Act 1, combats are generally better than events if you can take them. Late Act 1 into the rest of the game, it depends on a billion things. Just, yeah, which does your deck want more badly? Where are your big holes is kind of what all of Spire really comes down to. Hopefully that wasn't just a big rambly way to dodge the question and there was some helpful stuff in there, but yeah, those are my rambles. I've lost the plot on what we're looking at out of these card rewards. Oh yeah, Aggregate versus Tempest, same decision, but a floor later. Bolting the Overclock or skip here even. Interesting. Wonder what earlier decisions played into that. Auto Shields. I am a certified Auto Shields enjoyer. Early game, I think this card is underrated as hell. It says block 11 on it, unupgraded. That's a large number. And yeah, it falls off late game. Once you start getting like Frost with loops and stuff in there. If you have a bunch of like card draw and you draw into it later after you've already blocked some, yeah, it turns off. But if you're in that kind of a position where it's turning off because you have tons of Frost and loops and draw and all that jazz, you're probably just winning anyway. And early game, this is incredibly energy dense block. It does a lot for you. It smooths out a lot of the early game, and I find that by the time it sucks, it doesn't matter that it sucks. So I really like this card. I like the fact that Zeknar clicked on it here because that plays into my narrative about the card being good. Beam Cell obviously is a very strong card as well, especially if you've, picked up an early, like, I think there was a shop with an early Sunder or something here I remember buying. Yeah, we bought an early Sunder. Like, there's stuff, and there was the floor 1 Streamline that a lot of people upgrade as well. So the Beam Cell is very strong too, not to discount that, but this is a good card. I want it on the record that I think it's a good card. What do the stats say about that being a good card? Where are the card stats? Where is Auto Shields? 8 and 2. Alright. Plus 2%. It's mildly better than average. Whatever. I'll take it. 8 winning decks had it. I think it's good. It's a personal card that I enjoy. Anything else of note on these guys? Not hugely, I don't think. Other stuff just in Act 1 in general. Streamline, really strong early upgrade, unless you have a Sunder, which is kind of streamlined, but, more fun. I don't know. Streamline that doesn't require as much deck setup to make pop off. Like, you don't have to be able to recur it to the same extent. Most people upgrading early damage, which, again, makes sense. Glacier is good. Lots of people seeing tons of different things. Bandage Up, super strong, even on the character that has self-repair. Strange Spoon early on. Genetic Algorithm at 261 from Zeknar. Again, shoutouts there. Frost, good. Gold, good. Yeah. Hologram Sunder, Hello World. I assume most people here are on the, are not on the, oh no, Hello World is just garbage deck clog train, but if anyone lurking in chat does think that, you shouldn't. This is really strong. It's early game, it prints cards that are not your starter deck cards, right? So it's like you've just added a ton of cards that are better than your base deck on average, and the amount of output that gives is solid. And then late game, it's a lot of the Defect's commons scale really, really well as your deck gets better, right? Like a Hologram is as good as the best card that you can recur with it. A Cool-Headed is as good as the value you can get out of the extra Frost Orb as your deck gets more focus and loops and, so on and so forth. Turbo is as good as the extra cards that you're able to play with the additional energy that it gives you, and so on and so forth. It's like Defect commons just scale as your deck gets better, and so this thing is just output. I think a lot of people, especially like Reddit, kind of get scared off by its deck clog. You know, it puts a bunch of garbage commons in your deck that I don't want to draw, but it puts commons in your deck. I think the word garbage is not inherently true. I think defect commons are good, and yeah, it's not always a play, but it's often good output. Yeah, Reddit takes yeah. What are you gonna do? I won't ramble on it too much because I assume most people are that here, but yeah. Lots of smithing, lots of card rewarding, holograms early. I think a lot of this is, I'm assuming, with the streamline. Early hologram feels a little bit greedy to me unless there's like specific things to recur like that make it pop off more than average. This is usually more a card that I'll look towards in like Acts 2 and 3. But here I think it does make more sense than average. Ball Lightning, it's early damage. Late Act 1 I think is like later than I would ideally want to take it, but it was into Slime Boss. You know, you want the damage, it's good damage. Doom and Gloom, it's AoE, it gives you a Dark Orb. Again, kind of similar ideas. Beam Cell, very strong damage upgrade, especially with all the Sunders and Streamlines floating around. Seek is ridiculous. Hopefully nothing more need be said. Frost Focus, yeah. Weak is good, damage is good, energy is good. This one is greedy in my mind. But that's, you know, I'm feeling comfy enough with all of my Frost Focus that I can upgrade a card that's, you know, maybe a bit better in the longer term. I don't need to go for immediate output to quite the same extent. So if that was you, good job. Congrats. Went through that. We don't need to go through that. A lot of people keying the fish, which, fair. It's halfway through a run. It's kind of on the borderline for me. Gravy keying the sundial, saving from the cringe. Do not need to do so much sundial setup. Yeah. Not crazy early keys here. Fan on Defect, I guess, makes sense. Probably not likely to be spamming as many small attacks. Not going to proc all that often. Bronze Scales is an interesting one to me. This is almost never something that I would look towards keying. I mean, clearly it worked out, the run one, but Patchy, if you're still in chat, I would be very curious to hear your logic behind that as your key. Because like, if nothing else, this is just a bunch of damage in the heart, and with Defect in Act 4 and how that kind of matchup usually tends to go, I'm gonna take every advantage I can get there, personally. But yeah. We looked at these already. Large numbers. We looked a little bit at these already. I think I just kind of skimmed to mine, but Potato getting Giria up to 3. Boot having Tori popping off. Wrist 10 cards for the blue candle. Interesting. I think there was a puzzle in this seed, right? Yeah, there was a puzzle. So I'm guessing that was it. Because also tying best puzzle of getting puzzle procs intentionally for extra draw. Sad Giria from Mabu. Where's Mabu in here? Never did anything. Unfortunate. That'll happen. Courier. It saves a lot of money if you let it. Preserved Insect. This thing did 480 damage. Please farm. Common. Relic. Insane. Absurd. Smiling Mask. We had to key it. It seems like a bunch of people did. You know, it's decent. It saves some gold. Hourglass. Underrated, especially if you tend towards stally kind of decks. It's a lot of output. Strange Spoon. And I think enough has been said about the kind of stally shenanigans that this run could get up to. Sundial, yeah, we stalled for it a lot, more than most people did, just trying to get reliable sundial setup. It was slow, you know, we had a slow run. What are you gonna do? It won, so sue me. Pantograph, look at it, 97. Bronze Scales, this is why I don't key this relic. It dealt 561 damage, that is many. Zek doing Chemex shenanigans. Pretty fun stuff. ink bottle, and unceasing top. 67 unceasing top on this seed. It's pretty crazy. Everyone else getting like 01, 01, 01. LA at 36, and then two cylinder popping in like friggin' hold my beer, guys. So good job. Fun wombo combos there, I am sure. Tungsten rod at 82 as well. We had best pocket watch, $6.99. This thing drew 699 cards. That is a lot of cards. Lean into the pocket watch and things are good. Meat on the bone is also ridiculous. What did this average? Not sum. I do not care about the sum. Averaging 143. 143 hit points healed. It says 12. That's so many. A couple people bottling Core Surge. Nice with Bias Cog as well. Especially bottled Core Surge, bottled Seek. Get the biased immediately. Bing, chilling. Other people bottling Apo, Aggregate. One bottled Blind. Sort of bootleg boot sequence. Understandable. Only got like 36 out of meat. I mean, I guess that means that you weren't taking much damage throughout the run, so kudos on that front. But yeah, for Wet and I, we were just kind of like head bashing into random hallways and just sort of steamrolling forward and looking for cards and being like, I don't really care, meat will fix all of this. And then it did. So, oh, you had bandage up and spoon. That makes sense. That makes sense. 16-week blocked. 234 from Stone Calendar. That's a large number. I guess Kuro's stalling more than most is maybe what that means. Or got it earlier than most. I don't know. Kunai only doing up to 11. Same kind of logic as why one person keyed the fan. It's just not the kind of decks that Defect is trying to build. Late pallets, but Baylor really leaned into it. We got a little bit out of it. Puzzle again, late, but it's still puzzle. It's still very strong. Wing Boots, please farm. Art of War, it's good on Defect. I have it on good authority. And then the relics that only a couple people got relatively late in the run. Not doing much because of that, but hey, still pretty good stuff. So yeah, that's a seed. I think that covers the tabs. Yeah, we looked at Stall, we looked at Respect, looked at that. Yeah. That's mostly everything I had on my radar to ramble about. Again, open floor if anybody has other sort of thoughts or questions, things to highlight if you're looking at the sheet on the side yourself. Yeah, just good stuff in general. Discussions. Bueller. Amid sucks. Learning. Unironically, though, that is a learning for me from this seed, is just squint at a mid a little bit more than you otherwise would, right? It's insanely strong, but it's not always immediately, like, OP or even the best thing that you can click. Want to see next week's stats? Well, I will get the sheet going. It is technically already up. If the working, the WIP sheet, I can't remember if I linked it in the main seed of the week sheet. I'll do that after stream ends, if not. But yeah, I update those as I get run history data for them. So those will be live importing as the runs come in. Otherwise, Wet and I will be doing our run tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern is the plan. And yeah. Who is live? A bunch of people are live. We got our pick. Okay, who have we not rated recently then? Okay. Let's see how Merle is doing, maybe. Merle is defecting, and we just talked about a defect run. I read Noobzor. I rated Noobzor relatively recently, apparently. I think. I don't know. Merle, I clicked on Merle already and the ad is running down, so I'm just gonna do that. He's a cool guy. And yeah, popped in here earlier as well. Panacea is live as well. I mean, there's so many people. There's so many good streamers on right now that could go to and would not begrudge you guys if you go to, but gotta pick one. So let's pick Merle. Come on. Thing. Start raid. Alrighty. Thank you guys so much again for hanging out. I hope the discussion was good. I hope the seeds were fun. If you have not done the current Ironclad Seed of the Week yet, best of luck if you do choose to try it. And either way, hopefully I will see you guys around in the not too distant future. Thanks again and take care. Bye.